management is one of the skills that is most needed and least understood. It's most needed and least understood. And so tonight, tomorrow night, and Friday night, man, we are going to be so content heavy. It's going to be crazy. You need to get your pens and papers ready. I'm going to be doing a ton of go back and look. We're going to write this out together. So go grab a pen and paper. If you don't have a pen and paper, I promise you, you're going to need it. You're going to need it. And man, listen, I know your time is valuable. I know that your time's at a premium. So I want to thank you for investing a little bit of it with me. I promise you, I'm going to over deliver these next 3 days. I'm going to give you strategies. I'm going to give you tips, techniques, tools. Okay. I'm going to give you the how to, but I'm also going to invest a lot of time in the why to. Because folks, listen, if all you learn is how, but you don't get why, you'll never do the how, at least not long range, right? You'll learn a lot of great tools that you don't implement. And folks, this is about life change. This is about life change in a major way, in a permanent way. And it's going to just be an incredible time together. So grab your pens and papers, couple of things, okay? If you are in the VIP session, you have gotten the Zoom link. It is a separate Zoom link. As soon as we're done, every night for the next 3 nights, you need to get off this Zoom and need to jump onto the VIP Zoom. It's sitting in your inbox. If you don't have it, I promise you it's there. Check your spam, check your junk mail, but it's gone out actually 4 times. We sent it to you the last 4 days in a row. And the last one just went out at 8:30 tonight. So man, listen, this is just going to be absolutely impactful to like the 10th degree. I'm so excited to share with you. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit of the overview of what the next 3 days are going to look like so that you understand what to be expecting, okay? So we're going to start with a little bit of background, okay? So background and what I like to call prerequisites, okay? So the prerequisites. These are the things that you need to be great at time management that aren't the how-tos, okay? They're the 30,000 foot overview. They're maybe some ideas around time management, okay? So that's number one. Number two is we're gonna talk about time thinking. We're gonna talk about time thinking, how you think about your time, how you think about the value of time, how you think about the importance of becoming a better time manager. Because guys, listen, what we think about, we eventually bring about, okay? And I'm gonna teach you the tools, but if we're not thinking right, those tools are not gonna be as useful to us as they could be, okay? So we're gonna talk about time thinking. Number three, we're gonna talk about identifying. Identifying, where is my time going now? Where is my time going now? See, if we don't have an accurate accounting, if we don't have a realistic understanding of where we are, how are we ever going to figure out where we're going to go and how to get there, right? If we don't know where we're starting, see, a GPS takes 2 coordinates, a start point and an end point. Now, we can have the end point really clear, but if we don't know where we're starting, the GPS will not be able to get us there, right? Okay, and so we're gonna work on clearly, concisely, and accurately identifying where you are so that you understand your opportunities for improvement. You understand where to make the biggest differences and the biggest impact, okay? So that's 1 through 3 that we're gonna be talking about over the next 3 days, okay? Number four that we're gonna be talking about, okay? I like to call it the Great Exchange. See, we can't make any more time. We've got 24 hours in a day. You have 24 hours in a day. I have 24 hours in a day. The president has 24 hours in a day. We can't make any more of it. There's not something I'm going to teach you tonight or tomorrow night or the third about how to get 25 hours in a day. That's not going to happen. Okay. This is about understanding, being able to identify where our time goes and then exchanging, making positive, impacting exchanges. Instead of using time here, we're going to use time here. Instead of using time in this way, we're going to use time in this way. I call it the Great Exchange. Okay, so once we identify where our time's going, what's actually happening, get a thorough accounting, we're going to begin to talk about how do we exchange? How do we exchange way A for way B? How do we exchange X for Y and ultimately make what I call number 5, okay, the upgrade. How do we make the upgrade? How do we upgrade the value of the hours in our day? How do we upgrade the value of the activity put in those hours? How do we make strategic and thoughtful upgrades of our use of time? Okay, and number 6, I like to call the creation, okay, the creation. Now that we know what we're doing, now that we've made some exchanges, now that we've looked for the viable upgrades, how do we go back into the 24 hours a day, and how do we create, not create more time, how do we create a better value in our life with the time that we're getting? So those are the 6 sort of sub steps that we're going to go through over the next 3 days, okay? And so tonight we're going to start at the beginning, and we're going to work all the way through the end. So tonight's going to be a lot of background, a lot of prerequisites, a lot of time thinking. Guys, this is so important. If you get this stuff down, if you get this stuff on the inside, and I promise you, I'm going to challenge you, okay? I'm going to ask you to stretch. I'm going to push you. I'm going to ask you to engage, to be involved. Okay. I promise you, if you get this first part down, day 2 and day 3 are going to be so much more impactful. You're going to get so much more value out of this if you really dive into what we think about and how we believe when it comes to time. So why did I want to do this? Okay. That's a good question to start. Okay. And I wanted to do a couple things. Number 1 is I want to inspire you. I want to inspire you to take control of your life in the area of time, because the truth is this: if our time is out of control, our life is ultimately out of control. If our time's out of control, our life is out of control. And I want to inspire you to be great when it comes to managing what I believe is the very most important resource, the very most important, the very most valuable resource that any of us possess is our time. Guys, listen. We can possess money and we can lose it all. And if we work hard, do the right things, we could get it back. We could maybe neglect our health and not have our health be exactly where it needs to be. But man, if we get focused, we start eating right, we start exercising, we can regain a lot of that we've lost. But folks, time, once it's gone forever. It's more valuable than our income. It's more valuable than our home. Folks, listen, time is the stuff that life is made out of. It's the most valuable resource we have. And so I want to inspire you to take ownership of your time management, to take ownership of the direction of your life. I wanted to, number 1, inspire you. Number 2 is I wanted to encourage you that you can learn this, okay? Because I had to learn this. 15 years ago, I was a horrific time manager. Listen, I was working 3 jobs. All it seemed like I did was work, right? I worked and worked and worked. I didn't have time for family. I didn't have time for health. Okay, I didn't have time for any of the things that were important to me. And I was a slave to the clock, right? I was a slave to my own poor habits and poor thinking when it came to time management. And so I want to encourage you that no matter how overwhelmed you might feel, no matter how much you feel like you're running on a rat wheel, it's like you just can't get ahead. No matter what you're trying to accomplish, it just you keep getting behind, you keep getting further behind, right? Okay. I want to encourage you that can change, that you can take control, that you're going to be able to take the things I teach you tonight, and you're going to be able to improve the quality of your life in a magnificent and incredible way. Okay. So number 2 is I want to encourage you. Number 3 is I wanted to educate you. I wanted to give you the tools and the resources. See, listen, you're motivated already, right? Okay. You paid money to be on here. You're taking time out here, right? To be on here. You're motivated. Okay. Are you educated? Do you have the tools? See, when people know better, they do better, right? When people know better, they do better. And so do you have the tools you need to be able to properly account for your time? Do you have the tools you need to be able to properly prioritize your time? Do you have the tools you need to be able to upgrade, to be able to make proper exchanges? Do you have the tools you need? I wanted to educate you, to give you the tools and the resources, the tips, okay, the tricks, the ideas that have helped me. Guys, listen, I went from working 80, 90 hours a week, okay, not having time for family, not having time for friends, not having time for hobbies, okay, really unhappy, quite unhealthy, to being able, listen, I went from that 15 years ago to being able to be probably one of the most free people I've ever met. Today, I have a plethora of time, right? I'm writing a second book. We have a podcast, right? I run a thousands of members team in the financial services industry, right? I've got tons of family time. I'm super involved in church with the kids, homeschooling. We love to travel, okay? I read like a book and a half to 2 books every single month, okay? I listen to countless audios, podcasts, host these things, right? And I still have time left over, okay? And so listen, I'm a product of the things that I'm going to teach you. I'm not saying that to brag to you. I'm just telling you, listen, I was here. I had no time. I was always behind. I was always in a rush. It seemed like I was always under stress. I never had peace because I was just so busy going a million miles an hour in 100 different directions with not very much to show for. And using the things that I'm going to teach you over the next 3 days, I believe you're going to be able to make some substantial changes. So I wanted to educate you. And lastly, I wanted to empower you to really take ownership, because the truth is this, okay? Why did I start this? I started this because people today are busier than ever, okay? But they're not more productive than ever. They're not more fulfilled than ever. They're not happier than ever. They're busier than ever. They feel like time is going by like this. Don't you feel like that? It's like life is flying by, right? Okay, it's like the world keeps speeding up, and yet we're not happier. We're not more fulfilled. We're not more productive. And I see so many incredible people with big dreams and big destinies and big futures who lack the thinking and the skills and the tools to be able to harness control of their time. See, time, write this down. Time is the great differentiator. What do you mean by that, Ian? Time is the great differentiator. What I mean by that is this. Time is one of the resources in life that we all have the equivalent amount of. We don't all start at the same place financially. We don't all start at the same place in our family units and structure. We don't all start at the same place with education and upbringing. But we do all have the same 24 hours in a day. And so it's the great differentiator. We all have an equal opportunity when it comes to time, but we all don't have an equal outcome when it comes to time. See, the outcomes in our life are the byproduct of how we use our time, okay? You, me, the president, we all got the same 24 hours in a day. The difference in the outcomes in our life come directly from the difference in how we use our time. And so guys, listen, I've just been overwhelmed by watching so many people who could be great, who could change the world, but who are so busy going nowhere, busy getting nothing done, busy not being all they could be. See, people today are busier than ever. People wear busy like a badge of honor. You ever ask somebody that, like, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Oh, I'm so busy. Oh man, life's just so busy. It's so busy. We wear busy today like a badge of honor. But let me ask you a question, okay? Busy, that doesn't equal productive. Where exactly are you busy going? Are you busy going nowhere? Okay? Are you busy doing nothing of importance? And so guys, listen, we need to be less busy and we need to be more present. We need to be less busy and we need to be more full of peace. We need to be less busy and we need to be more productive, more directed. And so, man, I've watched so many people who could be great, but they simply don't own their time. Time owns them. And man, the tools that I'm going to give you over the next couple of days are going to be incredible. The second reason I wanted to start this is probably the number one question I get asked. If people are asking me questions in small group when I travel around and speak, one of the number one questions I get asked is, what does your daily schedule look like? Or some version of, how did you use your time? What did it look like? How did you use your time? And so guys, listen, I wanted to be able to teach you exactly how I use my time, but not just how I used it. What made me decide to do that way? Why was that important? Because guys, listen, if I can teach you how to think like I think on these areas, you're going to be able to do the things I did quite naturally, right? Okay. So I get asked about my schedule all the time, and I wanted people to be able to see what that looked like. Okay. And so look, time is that great equalizer, like we talked about. It's the differentiator and the equalizer. It puts us all even. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, but what makes us different is what we choose to do with it. And what I want you to understand, guys, is listen, time management matters. Time management matters. Most people aren't living their dreams, okay, because they aren't using their time correctly. Let me say that again. Most people aren't living their dreams because they're not using their time correctly. They've got this incredible resource, but they don't know how to use it. And so, guys, listen, I want you to kind of see time, okay, is kind of like a 30,000 foot overview here. I want you to see it kind of like this, okay? There's really three things we need to do if we want to really control time, okay? If we really want to control time, let's see if you see that there, okay? If you want to control time, okay, three things you need to do. Number one is you need to know where it goes. You ever feel like that? Like, oh my gosh, where did the time go? It's like, man, time flies when you're having, but you got to understand where it goes. If you don't know where you are, how can you change where you're going? You need to understand where time goes if you're ever going to control time. If you're ever going to take control time, you need to understand where it goes. Number two is you need to know where you want it to go. Okay, where is it going now? And where does it need to go for my life to improve? Where is it going now? What is my time allocated to currently? And where does it need to be allocated? How does it need to be allocated differently? What do I need to do differently to get a different result? Okay, and then number three, you've got to create some systems to execute on that. You need to be able to know, here's where I am, here's where I am, here's where I want to be. How do I get from where I am to where I want to be? That's the systems to execute. So guys, I want you to look at this. I want you to think about our time together in the next 3 days is like time management on steroids. Okay, time management on steroids. Here's why. Most things I've ever read on time management teach you how to better manage time. Do this, do that. Here's a technique. Here's a tip. Here's a trick. Okay. It teaches you the how. Okay. But it's kind of like shuffling seats on the Titanic, right? Okay. It's like you go sit over here, you go sit over there. The boat's still going down. You can know how this, how that, how this. But if you don't get the understanding about the why it's important to do this, why that makes sense, you're never going to implement the hows. Isn't that true? How many times have you learned something that could benefit you, but then you don't do it? Or at least you don't do it consistently. So we're not only going to talk about the how, and I'm going to give you a ton of how, but we're going to talk about the why and the how so that you can fundamentally redesign and reallocate time in your life so that you can really live life. So I want you to understand what I just said there, because you might not have gotten that, but we're going to talk about fundamentally redesigning how we use time. Folks, this isn't about how to find an extra 15 minutes in your day, right? Because it's 15 minutes to millions. It's not what this is about. This is about a fundamental redesign of your time, okay? Because folks, listen, if what you were doing with your time was working, okay, you'd be further ahead, right? You'd be further ahead. You'd have more peace. You'd have more joy. You'd have more contentment. And you'd be getting a heck of a lot more done and feeling good about it, right? Okay, so listen, we're going to redesign and reallocate time in our life purposefully, strategically, so that you have an unbelievable quality of life, okay? If all I help you do is learn what to do, but I don't teach you why to do it and how to do it, okay, you're not going to use it for long. You're not going to use it for long. When you know why and how, when you've got the thinking and the execution, that's where you become really dangerous and where you can change your life in a big dadgum way. Okay, so why is this important? Why did I want to do this? That's the number one reason why. Here's the second reason why. And I've told very, very few people about this. You're the first group of people I'm ever really talking to publicly about this. But about 18 months ago, I had a wake-up call. in my life. And I won't go into tons of details, but I started having some health challenges about 18 months ago. And, as you get on Google and you start Googling it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. But it got to the point within a few weeks of an onset that I could barely walk. I could barely speak. I couldn't wash my hair. I couldn't lift my arms up. I couldn't breathe. I was in and out of all sorts of doctors, tests upon tests upon tests. Holy smokes. I gave so much blood and MRIs and CAT scan and this, that, and the other thing. And it really, at a point, looked like I was maybe developing something that I was not going to undevelop from, if that makes some sense. And my life stopped for about a month and a half. And I really thought that I was probably dying. And it didn't look good. And man, thank God through so many prayers and through some lifestyle changes and some great medical help, man, today I feel 100%. Thank goodness it was not anything that we maybe thought that it was. But I came face to face with thinking that I maybe only had a couple of years on the planet to finish my life and my purpose. And that probably the last half of those 1 or 2 or 3 years wouldn't be much use. And it really shook me to my core. I've never been more scared in my life, but I also never had more clarity in my life. And it forced me to think differently about time. And I learned so much through that experience. Oh my goodness. I learned so much through that experience that I don't think you can learn any other way. And so that was a second motivator of why, Ian, do you want to do this time management workshop? Why is this important that people learn this? It's because we all think we have forever. And the truth is we don't. We don't have forever, okay? And so the question that I have for you is, if you had 6 months left to live, how would you be using your time? Where would your time go if you knew you had 6 months left to live? What would you be spending your time on differently than you spend it on now? And here's the $1 million question. It's probably worth way more than $1 million. Is why not use your time like that now? If you only had 6 months to live, what would you be doing with your time? Maybe you'd be spending more time with your family, maybe less time worrying about what other people think, less time doing menial things and more time on the things that matter. Well, if you knew you had 6 months left to live and you'd make that change, why won't you make that change now? And to begin to restructure and reallocate your life and your time in that way. And folks, I promise you, no matter where you are, no matter what you do for a living, no matter, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom, maybe you are a business owner, maybe you're an entrepreneur, maybe you work at a factory, wherever you are, whatever your life situation is, I promise you that if you start thinking different about time and you start learning some of these tools, you can make some of these changes and have an absolutely unbelievably rewarding life, okay? And so, man, listen, I want to talk to you. Let's start with some goals when it comes to time, okay? Let's start with some goals, okay? Because if we don't have a goal, we're going to hit that goal every time, okay? So here's the first question. Here's the first question I want you to be able to answer, okay? What do you want your life to look like when it comes to time? In other words, what would your perfect day look like? What would your perfect week look like? What would a day look like in your perfect life? What would you do in the morning? Who would you do it with? What would the pace of your day be? What would you fill your day with? Okay, understand this. If you don't know where you're going, any path will get you there, right? Okay, and so you've got to understand that you've got to have some sort of goal. You've got to start with the end in mind when it comes to planning your time. If you don't have a goal, what is the purpose of planning and improving your time? How will you know if you did it? You won't, right? So you've got to have a goal. And this is what I talked about. This is interactive. I'm not just going to talk at you for 3 hours. we're going to do some stuff together here. That's why I'm whiteboarding this, okay? So I want you to be able to come along with me. So what would you like to spend more time doing? That's the second question. What would you like to spend more time doing? Okay. What do you want to spend more time doing? What do you love doing that you just don't get to do enough? What really excites you? What are you passionate about? Maybe it's time with your kids. Maybe it's watching a movie. Maybe it's starting a new hobby. But what do you want to spend more time doing than you're doing right now? I want you to take a second. I want you to write that out. Okay, just looking at me and say, oh yeah, that's good. That's not going to help you. What do you want to be able to spend more time doing in your life, okay, that you're not being able to do right now because of how your time is currently constrained, okay? Understand, again, we're going to restructure and rebuild this from scratch, okay? That's what I had to do in my life, and that's what I'm going to teach you to do in your life. And it's fantastic when you can break out of the mold that people put you in, okay? What would you like to spend more time doing? And here's question 3, right? What would you like to spend less time doing? Okay? What would you like to spend less time doing? In other words, what consumes a lot of your time right now that you wish it just didn't? Okay? That you wish was different. It's like, man, I would love to do this, but I'm so maxed out over here doing this that I don't have time to do that. Okay, what are we doing here? We're starting with the end in mind. We're looking at what we want and we're going to reverse engineer, create it, right? If we don't reverse engineer it, then we might build something and have it not be what we want, right? Does that make sense? What we're finding is what do we want? And then let's figure out how to build it, right? So listen, okay, what do you want your life to look like when it comes to time? I want to challenge you, and you probably can't do that right now, but I want to challenge you tonight or tomorrow before we get back on this for part 2 to have a clear, concise paragraph or 2 written about what your perfect day and what your perfect week looks like in as much vivid detail as you can, okay? What does it look like? What's the flow of it? What are you doing? What is filling your time? Who is filling your time? Okay, a paragraph as crystal clear as you can get, because folks, listen, it's your life. You can make it whatever you want. So many people are stuck in a life they feel like they didn't sign up for. And folks, you take the eraser and you can erase that and write in a new story, right? But you got to think that way. So what do you want your life to look like when it comes to time? Number 2, what would you like to spend more time doing than you're doing now? And then number 3 is what would you like to spend less time doing than you're doing now? Where's your time going that you wish it wasn't? Man, I'm always cleaning. I'm always cleaning up after everybody. Any of you moms out there, right? You know, it's like, my goodness, right? It's like, it's a nonstop tornado of disaster that you're constantly cleaning. You're like, man, if I could ever stop cleaning, I could change the world, right? Okay, whatever that is for you, write it down. Okay, and what we're starting to get here is a framework of what a win would be for us in time management, right? Okay, and so here is the $1 million question. Here's the $1 million question. That was the why, right? That was the what. That was the what. Okay, the why. Why is this important? What's it going to look like? Here's the next question. Ready? How? How are you going to do that? How are you going to create this? How are you going to get your life to look like you wrote out? How are you going to do more of what you want to do and do less of what you don't want to be doing? How are you going to do those things? Okay. And that's what we're going to do over the next 2 or 3 days. I'm going to show you every tool, every tip, every trick that I have to be able to maximize your time, to get rid of low value garbage, to have tons of high value efficiency so that you have more done in less time and you feel better than you've ever felt doing it. Okay. So how are you going to do that? That's what we're going to answer. So let's move. Okay. Let's move from the prerequisites, right? Okay, in the background to time thinking. And we're probably going to spend the rest of our time here together for the next 30 minutes or so, really working on our thinking when it comes to time, because what we think about, we bring about, okay? Our current results are the byproduct of our current thinking. Many of you are familiar with my book, Byproduct. If you're not, I'm going to give you a little overview here, okay? I'm going to give you a little overview here, right, of one of the main premises of the book, T-bar, okay? So for many of you, you're familiar with this, but what this says is thoughts, right? Thoughts eventually become beliefs, right? What we think about long enough, often enough, vividly enough, emotionally enough, eventually moves from a thought, which is a conscious process, to a subconscious belief. It's now assumed as true, and it filters all of our actions, right? Our actions are always created by our beliefs. Our actions are always created by our beliefs, and ultimately our actions lead to our results. And so what we think about time, namely the value of time in our life, the place of time in our life, our relationship to time in our life, and our ability to control time in our life, those thoughts around those four things, they create our beliefs and ultimately are responsible for our actions when it comes to our use of time. When it comes to our use of time. Okay, and so folks, listen, okay, we're going to jump back and forth. We're going to hit concepts today that we're going to go back to tomorrow, back to the next day. We're going to be in and out a lot, okay? So understand this, that you've got to learn to think differently about time. You should write that down. I've got to learn to think differently about time if I want better results with time. I've got to learn to think differently about time if I want better results with time, okay? And so understand this, success and peace come from creating right thinking and belief systems around the importance and value of time. Have you ever met somebody that doesn't value their time? They show up late to everything. It's like, hey, when are you going to be over? I'll be over in 15 minutes. An hour later, they're still not there. They just don't respect time. They don't respect your time, their time, anybody's time. Well, that also tends to tie into they're not very respectful and a bunch of other things as well, right? Okay, so success and peace comes from thinking right about time and our relationship to time, okay? And so understand, if our thinking is not right around time, that's going to cloud our beliefs and our actions, and we're not going to have success with time. We're always going to feel overwhelmed. We're going to feel like we have too little time in the day, like there's no end in sight. And folks, that's just not true. That's just not true. There are people who are way out producing you, who are creating tons of value in their life and have a ton of time, to enjoy the things in life that really matter. And that's why you're on here tonight, right? Is you want to do something in your life that's going to require you to think differently than you think now about time, okay? So I'm going to give you some prerequisites here. You've got to, again, you've heard me say this tonight, but you got to start with the end in mind. If you don't know what you're trying to build, how are you going to construct it? How will you know once you've built it? How will you know if you need to change something or it's not working? We've got to start with the end in mind, and then we got to create our reality around that end, right? Okay, and so let's talk about some of the false thinking, because if you have false thinking, that's going to create what? That's going to create false beliefs and false actions and ultimately false and negative results. So let's start talking about some of the false thinking when it comes to time, okay? False thought number one, I have plenty of time. I have time. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll get it done later. This is the procrastinator, okay? The procrastinator does not value time. They're willing to take the time they have right now, which, by the way, is the only time guaranteed to you and they're willing to do nothing with that time. They're willing to let that time pass away forever, for all of eternity. They're willing to take that time and disregard it, to push it away and to not have anything to show for it. Folks, you don't have time. Tomorrow is not guaranteed to us. Yes or yes? If tomorrow isn't guaranteed to us, then why not live fully today? Why not use our time wisely today? Why not do the most productive things? Why not live fully? Why not love fully? Why not engage fully? Why not be fully present? Folks, listen, one of the biggest lies, one of the most common false thinking is I have time. I have time. Tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Okay? I have time. Number two, ironically, I don't have any time. I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to do this, folks. That's false as well. You have 24 hours today. You have the same amount of time that I have, the president has, your favorite artist has, your sports hero has. That's false. You do have time. People think, well, I don't have time. That's a false thought. How many times have you said that to yourself, guys? I just don't have time to do that right now. That is a false thought, and that is a false belief that you're verbalizing, okay? Try next time saying, it's not a priority for me right now, because you do have time to do anything you want. But see, when you think, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time, when you think that 1,000 times, guess what you pretty soon begin to believe? You begin to believe, well, I just don't have the time. Now it's not a thought, it's a belief. I don't have time. So somebody presents to you an incredible opportunity. What do you say? No, I don't have time, right? Your kid says, Dad, come to my game. No, I don't have time. Your spouse says, honey, let's go on a date. Well, I don't have time. What's happening? You thought wrong long enough that has now become a subconscious belief, and you stop looking for the time. Folks, we don't find time, we make time, right? Does that make sense? We don't find time, we make it. We make time for what's important to us, period. And so people think, well, I've got plenty of time, I'll do it tomorrow. That's false. You only have today, but you also do have today. People think, well, I don't have time, okay? I don't have time. Well, that's also false. You got 24 hours a day. Let's talk about another one, okay? I have to. Well, I have to do this. I have to be here. I have to go to my job. I have to be in school. I have to take the kids here. I have to grocery shop. Folks, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. You choose to do those things. I'll say, I can't choose not to go to work tomorrow. Sure you can. You might get fired, right? That might create a financial problem for you, okay? There might be consequences from that choice, but you do have a choice. Understand this, right? Okay? You need to write this down. Holy smokes, this is good, right? I mean, this is worth a dadgum class right here, okay? Some of you are being set free right now. It's like chains are falling off your life. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. You choose. All those things in your life that are taking up all your time, you're so busy, you're running here and there, you're involved in this, you're over here. You chose that, and you can choose differently, okay? You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. Everything you're doing right now, every minute of every day, you have chosen either by design or default where that time's going, okay? And so you can choose differently. You can choose differently. And that's what I talked about earlier. We're gonna redesign. We're gonna reconstruct, okay? This is time management on dadgum steroids, baby, right? Okay, this isn't how to get 15 minutes more. I'm gonna teach you how to build the life you want, okay? No matter what it looks like, because it's all about how you choose to use this resource of time. You don't have to do anything, folks. That's false thinking that I have to do this. Okay. Here's another one. Well, I need to be here. I need to do this, folks. You don't need to do anything. You don't need that. Right? You don't need to go to that specific job tomorrow. Okay. You could go to a different one. You could You could take your job and you could start being a freelancer with it. You could do this, right? You don't need to teach homeschool tomorrow, okay? You could put them in out school, or you could put them in school, or you could do any, I'm not saying you should. I'm just helping you understand that you don't need to do that. Because the truth is, many of us have brainwashed ourselves that we have to, that we need to, and we've created our own prison. And then we're pissed that we can't escape. And we hold our own key and say, no, I don't have the key. I don't have the key. It's not in my hand right here. Folks, you don't have to do anything. You don't need to do anything, okay? Here's the next bad thinking when it comes to time management in the prerequisite overview, okay? They need me. Who's they? My job, my kids, my PTA group, my this, my that, my homeowners association, the kids ballet, okay? Folks, listen, okay? You got to put it all on the drawing board. There can't be any sacred cows, okay, in your life, because here's what I found, okay? If you say yes to everything, you know what you say no to? Your dreams, your purpose, and your destiny, okay? So many of us are overcommitted when it comes to where our time is because they need us. Man, if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. Folks, listen, I promise you, okay, there are other options. Let me give you an example, okay? They need me to clean the house. If I don't clean this house, it's not going to be clean, and it needs to be clean, okay? You don't necessarily have to clean that house. It's probably right, it should be clean, but you don't have to do that. You could hire a cleaner. You could settle for a little less level of cleanliness, okay? You could pay your child to do it. You could just throw everything away. The point is, when we think, well, I have to do this, or I can't not do that because they need me, we might live our life trying to please everybody else. And when we live trying to please everybody, we please nobody. Have y'all learned that yet, right? Okay, and so this is some of the prerequisite thinking about time, okay? You don't have to do anything, okay? You don't need to be doing anything. And people don't need you to do that, right? Okay, they don't need you to do that. You're like, I need to be at that wedding, okay? Maybe if it's your kid or your wedding, right? Okay, but you know how many people I meet that like, I have to be here. It's really eating up my time. I don't have time to do this, that, and the other thing, but I have to be here because if I'm not at that wedding, they won't get married. Well, folks, that's not true. They don't even know you're there or not, right? That's our narcissism saying I'm the center of the world. And if I'm not at that wedding, it's going to be the end of the world. Okay. We've got to be willing to look objectively at the things that vie for our time and attention and prioritize them outside of social stigma of what other people need to say. Let me tell you one of the things that's been the most freeing thing in the world to me. I don't give two craps about social stigma. I live in like backwards land, right? Okay. When everybody's driving to work, sitting in their rush hour traffic, okay, I'm not doing any of that crap. Okay. But maybe for a period of time when people were home from work and vegging out on the TV, I was working, but it was backwards life, right? Okay. We'd go to the mall at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday because we had all the time in the world. Then there was nobody there. It was like we owned the place. Most everybody else was not there. They would be there on the weekends. Well, when everybody was there, we were working on the weekend at a period of time, right? Does that kind of make sense? And so we had no sacred cows in our life in terms of how we had to live using our time. And I want to encourage you, if you really want to change your life in a big way, okay, like just dramatically, you got to be willing to put it all on the table and say, all right, let's reimagine this, because how it's working for me so far is not great, okay? Too little time, frustrated, don't have a ton of results to show for it, okay? So think about that, okay? When you sacrifice your dreams to try to make others happy, you're not going to be happy. You're going to spend the little bit of time you have here on the planet not living a fulfilled life. Okay, so those are some of the common negative thoughts. Okay, think about this. These negative thoughts tend to verbalize. What we speak about, we bring about, right? So let me give you some clue, right? Because some of you might say, well, I don't know if I think that way or not. Let me give you a clue on how you can know, okay? Because if you think about it, you'll speak about it, okay? Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? So here's some of the common negative speak that you hear that's showing you, I've got some faulty thinking about time. I'm just so busy. I'm just so busy. I'm overwhelmed. I've got too much to do. I've got too much on my plate. I don't have enough. There's not enough time in the day. There's not enough hours in the day, right? I need an 8th day of the week, right? Okay. These are, when we're saying these things, that shows us, here's what this says to me. I'm out of control when it comes to time. I'm out of control when it comes to time. Are you speaking in this way? Do you kind of feel how it almost feels like gross, like, ugh, like somebody's like dumping on you there? Okay, listen, hey, that's not a priority for me right now. That's not a priority for me right now. I choose my time, but I'm choosing not to do this, right? When you start owning it, you'll start changing your vocabulary and your words are creating your world, okay? So understand this, okay? This creates this sort of negative speak, right? That ends up creating negative beliefs and negative actions and negative thinking around those actions, right? Like, I'm always late. I never have enough time, right? Negative emotions around it, like stress and being overwhelmed and feeling like you're a loser and you're not going to be able to get it done, okay? These are some of the negative things that happen around thinking and believing when it comes to time. These are false beliefs, false thoughts, and we've got to identify them, and then we got to move them out. So what are we going to move them out with? We're going to make a trade. So let's talk a little bit about some truths about time. And I'm going to give you some thinking here, okay, that's going to change your life if you let it, because this is how I've learned to think about time. These are truths that I embody, I believe, and those create the actions of being able to be really, really meticulous and really, really disciplined when it comes to managing my time and teaching others to manage theirs, right? So let's talk about some of the truths about time. Number one is this: time management is a skill. Managing time is a skill. It's learnable. It is not naturally occurring. Folks, that is an absolute truth. There's no gift of time management. Nobody comes out of the womb and is like, all right, I've been out for 2 minutes now, time to move on to feeding, right? That's never happened. Okay, time management, learning to be aware, learning to direct, and learning to upgrade and exchange your time appropriately is a skill that can be learned. Remember T-bar? Thoughts become beliefs, become actions, become results, right? When I believe that time management is a skill, I'll try to learn it. I will take action to learn that skill. Y'all following what I'm saying there, right? If I don't believe that it's a skill, it's just their life's so different than mine. Easy for you to say, right? You have this going on, you have that going on. That's why I told you a little bit of the backstory. I didn't have that going. We created this life by using our time and thinking about our time correctly, right? Okay, so time management is a skill that is learnable. It is not naturally occurring, okay? Okay, that is a truth. Ready? Next one is this. Busy is not a badge of honor. Productive is a badge of honor. Being busy, looking busy, telling people how busy you are, saying yes to a quadrillion things because it makes you feel fulfilled. Like, look how important I am. Look at all these people. Like, man, I'm in this and I'm in that and I'm doing this and I'm so needed, right? Busy is not a badge of honor. Productivity is, okay? Ready? Here's another one. We don't find time. Time is not lost. We don't find it. Like, you over there, time? Where are you at? I found some time in my pocket. We don't find time. We make it. Folks, we make time for what's important to us, period. They say, well, I don't have time to go to the gym and be healthy. False. It's not important to you to go to the gym and be healthy because we make time for what's important. Honey, I know I want to be with the family more, but I can't find the time. Folks, that's false. That's false. We don't find time, we make time. Here's another truth. You ready? Time is the most valuable commodity you have on this planet. It is more valuable than your health. It's more valuable than your wealth. It's more valuable than your income or your home. Time is the only thing you will never get back once you lose it, okay? Here's another truth. Here's another truth about time. Ready? We all have the same amount of time. How we use it determines our outcomes. And some of you might say, well, that's false. What about somebody who lives 80 years and somebody who only lives 60 years? We didn't have the same amount of time, okay? We might not have had the same total amount of time, but we do have the same amount of time today. We had the same amount of time yesterday and the day before that, okay? We all have the same amount of time. How we use it is going to determine our outcomes, okay? How we use it is going to determine our outcomes, okay? Next truth, poor time management holds your dreams and destiny hostage. Woo! Let me write that one out. You need to write that down. Hey, by the way, feel free, you get some of these nuggets, okay? Feel free to put that on a graphic and throw it out there on Instagram and tag me in it, okay? Because look, poor time management, okay, holds your dreams and destiny hostage. That is a strong statement, and it is absolutely true. When we don't manage our time appropriately, we never invest heavily enough into the areas of our dreams, our destiny. We never build our skill. We never build our networks, our relationships, because our life is so full of good things that we don't make time for great things, right? And so we've got to understand that poor time management holds our dreams and destiny hostage, okay? Next truth about time. When you get control of your time, you get control of your life. And until you have control of your time, you will not have control of the outcomes in your life. Until you are directing time, controlling it, allocating it, putting it in certain areas, you will not control your life. When you get control of your time, you'll get control of your life, okay? Ready? Here's another truth. If we don't get our time right, we won't get our life right. If we don't get our time right, we won't get our life right. We've got to take this seriously, and that's why you're on this program. That's why you invested some, because you're serious about getting your time right. When you get your time right, your life will be right as a byproduct of doing the most productive things, the most valuable things, the most meaningful and impactful things first, and then filling our life with all the lesser things along the way. Man, so many of us are so full, like I said, with the good things in life, we don't have time for the great things, okay? When it comes to time, you've heard this before, proper planning prevents poor performance, okay? If we don't have a plan for our time, we won't have any time. Let me say that again. If we don't have a plan for our time, we won't have any time. And so when we shift over to the awareness and the identifying of where our time is, that's the foundation of planning. We've got to know where we are so we can tell our time where to go instead of wonder where it went, right? Okay. We don't ask where did the time go. We tell time where to go, and then we make sure that it went there. Let me say that again. Another truth about time. We don't ask where did the time go. We tell time where to go, and then we make sure that it gets there. So we don't wonder, we don't have no plan and then say, holy smokes, it's been those hours are already gone, those weeks, those months, those years. Gosh, how many of you feel like those decades are gone? Where did it go? We don't ask where it goes anymore. We tell time where to go, and then we make sure that it went there. We direct it, and then we evaluate it, right? We evaluate and we control it, okay? So guys, listen, How we use our time ultimately determines the quality of our life, right? How we use our time is going to determine the quality of our life. We all have the same amount of it. How we choose to use it is what's going to help us explode or stay small, okay? Let me give you a couple of more truths tonight, okay? The enemy knows that if he can get you to treat your time haphazardly, you won't be a threat, okay? He doesn't need to mess with you in any other area of your life if he can mess with your ability to control time. If he can get you to not value your time, he doesn't need to worry about any other destructive forces in your life because you won't be a force to be reckoned with, okay? Here's another truth about time that I found. A lot of people waste a lot of time living in the past. They waste their todays on yesterdays that are gone. Folks, you can't do anything about yesterday. You can't do anything about the game you lost, the love you lost, okay, the time you lost. You can't do anything about it. But if you let it kill your time today, it's like the gift that keeps on giving. Folks, you got to get out of living in yesterday. Folks, yesterday it's gone, right? And tomorrow's not here yet. You have when? You have right now. Are you doing that with your time, which you want to be doing with your time? A lot of people waste a lot of time living in the past. And all that does is waste your todays and tomorrows. It doesn't change anything. Let it go. I don't know who that's for tonight, but man, some of you you've been walking up the mountain of your dream carrying a 10,000-pound sack of regret, carrying a 10,000-pound sack of unforgiveness, carrying a 10,000-pound sack of would have, could have, and should have. Folks, set it down. Set it down. Okay? Listen, the truth is this. You can get a lot more done in a lot less time than it's taking you now. Okay? That's a truth. That's a belief that I have. I can get a lot more done in a lot less time than I'm doing it now. Okay? So listen, here's some of the right thinking that you got to have. I have the same amount of time as everybody else. It's me that chooses what to do with it. Whew, that is some ownership right there, right? Okay, I have the same amount of time as everybody else. My results are my choice. My results, my outcomes were created by how I've chosen to use my time so far, and I can choose differently, okay? People who are successful start by successfully using their time, okay? You say, Ian, you're giving me so much stuff. You're giving me so many thoughts. Do you think this way? Do you believe what I'm saying to you here? Have you ever really challenged those beliefs? Guys, listen, when you think this way, right? Think about that again. People who are successful start by successfully using time. Well, how can we keep wasting time if we want to be successful? Okay? If I learn, here's the truth. If I learn how the successful use their time and emulate that, I too can be successful. If I can learn how the successful use their time, what's important to them? How do they think about time? What are some of the beliefs and the truths that they hold that change how they function with time? I can also be successful. Okay, and the last one I'm going to give you right now is this. I don't need a guru, okay? I need to own the use of my time. I'm not your guru, okay? I'm just a guy who is exactly like you, who struggled with the same things you struggled with, who didn't have any time. I spent inordinate amounts of it away from my family, away from doing the things that I wanted to do, and I made a change. I made a change by first changing my thinking. I knew I don't want my life to look like this anymore. I want it to look like this. I sought out new thinking, new belief systems, and that gave me the power to learn and apply the things we're going to be talking about over the next 2 days. I know I gave you a ton tonight, but buckle up because it's going to get twice as good tomorrow as we begin to move into the actual processes. All right, how do I take this and make this a reality in my life? Guys, listen. Same time tomorrow, 9 o'clock Eastern. If you are a VIP and you're in the VIP small group, jump off now, get logged on to the other Zoom. And guys, we'll see you tomorrow night. God bless y'all. We'll talk to you soon.